A gift for God, understanding biblical tithing. In the Bible, tithing is a big deal. It's all about giving back to God. The word tithe means a tenth. Imagine taking all the good things you have, your money, your food, even your animals, and giving a tenth of it to God. This idea of tithing started a long time ago, way back in the Old Testament. Back then, people didn't use money as much as we do now. They traded crops and animals, so they would give a tenth of their harvest or their flocks to God. It was a way of saying thank you for all the blessings in their lives. The Bible talks about tithing in places like Leviticus and Deuteronomy. It says that giving to God is important. It's a way to honor Him and acknowledge that everything we have comes from Him in the first place. Caring for the clergy, the Levites, and tithing. So, where did all this stuff people were giving actually go? Well, a big chunk of it went to support a special group of people called the Levites. The Levites were like priests and caretakers of the temple, God's house. They dedicated their lives to serving God and the community. Because the Levites were so busy doing God's work, they didn't have regular jobs like farmers or merchants. They couldn't just go out and earn a living like everyone else. That's where tithing came in. The tithes that people gave provided food, clothing, and shelter for the Levites. This system ensured that the Levites could focus on their spiritual duties without worrying about their basic needs. It was a beautiful example of how a community can come together to support those who dedicate their lives to something bigger than themselves. Tithing today, from ancient roots to modern churches. Centuries have passed since the time of the Old Testament, but the idea of tithing is still around. In fact, it's a common practice in many churches today. But how does this ancient practice fit into our modern world? Today, most churches don't ask for a tenth of your crops or your sheep. Instead, they usually ask for a tenth of your income, your salary, your wages, or any money you earn. This money is used to keep the church running, paying for things like electricity, building upkeep, and staff salaries. Just like the tithes in ancient times supported the Levites, today's tithes help support pastors and church staff who dedicate their time to serving the community. It also helps fund important outreach programs, missions, and community service projects. When giving gets complicated, concerns about tithing today. While the principle of giving back to God is beautiful, the way tithing is sometimes practiced today has raised some concerns. One of the biggest worries is that some churches seem to focus too much on the money and not enough on the heart behind the giving. Some people feel pressured to give more than they can afford. They might feel guilty if they can't tithe the full 10%. Others worry that their hard-earned money isn't being used wisely or transparently. Stories of pastors living lavish lifestyles while their congregations struggle financially have eroded trust and sparked debate about the true purpose of tithing. Another concern is that the emphasis on tithing can sometimes overshadow other important aspects of faith, like compassion, kindness, and service to others. It's important to remember that giving should never feel like an obligation or a burden. Finding the true spirit of giving, a balanced perspective. So where does this leave us? Is tithing still relevant today? The answer, like many things in life, is complex. It's about finding a balance. The Bible does talk about tithing, but it also emphasizes generosity, compassion, and caring for those in need. It's not just about the amount we give, but the heart behind it. Giving should come from a place of love, gratitude, and a desire to make a difference. If you feel called to tithe, then do so cheerfully and generously. But if you can't give a full 10%, don't be discouraged. Remember, God treasures every act of kindness, no matter how small. Focus on giving what you can with a joyful heart and trusting that God will honor your generosity in His own way. Living a life of abundance beyond the tithe. Ultimately, living a life of faith is about so much more than just money. It's about using all of our resources, our time, talents, and yes, our finances, to make a positive impact on the world around us. It's about reflecting God's love in all that we do. Maybe you can't afford to give a lot financially right now, but you can volunteer your time at a local soup kitchen. Maybe you can't tithe the full 10%, but you can offer a listening ear to someone who's hurting. Every act of kindness, big or small, matters. Remember, God sees your heart, not just your wallet. He cares about your willingness to give, your compassion for others, and your desire to make a difference. Focus on living a life of generosity, love, and service. and you'll be living in the true spirit of giving.